Hello everyone. I'm your host today, Satish Khandelwal, and welcome to another episode of Finance Unraveled by Lotus Dew. Today our guest is Dr. Prachi Devuskar. Her qualifications will make you go absolutely bonkers. She is All India rank holder number 1 in CA. She has done her MBA from IIM Bangalore. She has done PhD from NYU Stern. Till recently, she was faculty at ISB, and of course, she is founder at Lotus Dew Wealth and Investment Private Limited, and of course, my boss. So, Prachi, why don't you give a brief introduction about yourself and what kind of work you do?
Thank you, Satish, for those very, very kind words. After that, glowing list, maybe more introduction is not necessary, but I'll just add a few things. I'm interested generally in financial markets, of course, through actually making investment products via Lotus Dew. But I have, for last couple of decades, I've also conducted research on financial markets globally and have published that research in top global academic journals. I am also interested in teaching about finance, and I have again done that for last couple of decades. Occasionally, I also serve on various advisory committees and working groups of SEBI. So let's get started about what we want to talk about today.
The very first question is, how did you and why did you choose finance?
I always found finance as a very fascinating field, even while doing chartered accountancy. But then, particularly while doing MBA, finance was the subject that attracted most interest from me. And so much so that I decided to delve deeper and go for a PhD in finance. Particularly investor behavior and financial markets has fascinated me for various reasons. There is a very strong framework, but there are also all these realities in which investors don't behave the way we think they should behave. And that creates various fascinating patterns, sometimes because they have constraints, sometimes because they have biases. And it's fascinating to kind of understand about that. That's how the journey started.
Interesting. So let's start from here itself. Like, you have spent long time in academics and now you are applying it practically as well.
Yes.
So what are the differences do you see between the academics and the practical part of the finance?
Yeah. Very, very interesting question. The way even financial market research in academia works is you have to establish some patterns and their reasoning for it. And you have to establish both those things very conclusively. And so often academic research kind of focuses on one point, one driver of the behavior, and the focus is to show it as robustly as possible in different market conditions, in different sample periods. Are there any alternative explanations, and so on. And showing it so conclusively makes it a very strong result, but it also takes a lot of time. Right? Whereas in practice, we often don't have so much time, and so we kind of research as we go along. Sometimes we see something is working, we kind of put it to test, then we learn from it, we go back, we modify something, and again go forward. So there is no expectation, and also there is no time to kind of do all the hundreds of robustness tests that an academic research would require. Right. At the same time, there are other practical considerations come in. sometimes in academic research, to kind of establish a clear point, you kind of assume away all the imperfections of the real world, imperfections of financial markets, right? And so you say, okay, you can buy as much as you want, you can short, you can buy fractional shares, you have all the information that you have, and so on. Whereas when we are applying it practically, we have to keep in mind those realities, and that is how some of the big differences.
Could you give some examples where academic, like your research doesn't work in practical, and few examples where academic research help you find something new, which you applied in practical investing?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that is a very, very interesting question. And I will tell you two cases where academic research kind of led into big practical applications and investments portfolios, and the other case where it did not work. Right. So the first example is of Fama and French. Fama is a Nobel laureate. French is his longtime collaborator, and they have written many papers together. The most famous of it is called the Fama-French three-factor model, that talks about, in addition to the market effect, it also says that there is a size effect, that small caps do better than large caps, and there is a value effect, that is stocks that have lower P ratios or lower PB ratios tend to do better than the ones that have higher ratios. And this academic research has not only led to more academic research sort of digging deeper into these patterns, but most importantly, has led to a big revolution in the investments industry, where now these are used as factors, and many ETFs and mutual funds are offered based on these factors. Right? So this is a case where academic curiosity led to academic research, and that led to practical investment implications that are now have been verified in markets globally.
Yes.
Right? But sometimes it can also go the other way around. And one of the most famous examples of this is the case of long-term capital management. And this was a very big hedge fund, what we call as alternative investment fund, in the 1990s in the US, that was started by Nobel laureates and other Wall Street bigwigs, and based on very sound academic idea that prices of similar assets should be similar, and the fund traded on price differentials of similar assets. Okay? And it was very successful for a period of time. But then one big event of Russia defaulting on its sovereign bond kind of unravel all their strategies across markets at the same time. Right? So sometimes it may happen that academic research kind of has missed out on some things, and it does not result in what was expected based on that research.
Quite interesting. So if students are watching this podcast, Fama French model paved the way for multi-factor models, which I use extensively in my personal research for finding required rate of return, or discount factor, you call it. So moving on, then let's come to, like, there is this wave of quantitative investing going on. So, like, is fundamental investing dying? Is my first question, because I am fundamental investor myself. I do fundamental
Yes.
research.
Yes.
So is my job at risk?
no, not at all, and certainly not in India, because there is still like plenty of room to figure out opportunities based on fundamental research, and many of you. And many of you may already know what fundamental research is, but it's essentially looking at financial statements of the company, other information that is out there to understand what is the value of the core business and comparing that with the price, right? And essentially, you're trying to see relative to the fundamental value, am I able to buy it cheaply or is it too expensive, right? And there is absolutely, you don't need to worry, Satish, there's absolutely plenty of opportunity for fundamental research. But in addition to that, now there is also opportunity for quant-based models. And what quant-based models do is try to kind of systematically implement some signals and buy or sell recommendations based on that, right? So oftentimes they are based on models, and once the model is set up and checked and backtested, then it does not require a great deal of intervention while implementing going forward. Another advantage may be that such type of models are able to integrate whole lot of signals, right? Whereas one researcher like you and me may not be able to integrate all of that, right? But at the same time, particularly in situations where a lot of data is not available, quant models naturally will not do as well, right? And so I feel there is room for both, and one like fundamental approach may have advantages in some situations where judgment is very important, whereas quant investing may play a role where there are a lot of signals available, lot of data is available, and you can integrate all of them using models.
Okay, so when more and more data will be available, as Indian markets will become like more robust, as and when Indian markets will become more mature and more data will be available, do you think quant investing will dominate fundamental investing?
I don't know if it will dominate fundamental investing, but compared to today, it will certainly play a more important role. And that is not surprising because currently it is at a very nascent stage in India. But if we look at developed markets, it plays a much more important role. So I see a similar trajectory for India as well. But it's not clear whether it will overshadow fundamental investing.
One more question regarding quant investing is that as more and more people will find same thing in like quant, like similar strategies, do you think quant investing will lose its edge, or do you think what will be the better approach, like fundamental investing, or should an investor mix it with quant plus fundamental?
No, that is a very interesting question, because essentially everybody is using the same data, everybody is using the same models. Then how can they have an edge, right? That's
Right.
essentially the question, and that is where quant investors, quant analysts will continuously have to find new ways of creating an edge for themselves. So this may be in terms of finding or creating new data sets for themselves, or building new models, and in this space kind of more advances in technology may play a role, right? But if you think about it, fundamental investors also have to do the same thing, right? If somebody is using one ratio
Right.
and that loses his edge, you look for other things whether you think about it explicitly or not, you look for other signals even within fundamental investing. So same thing will apply to quant investing, that when something becomes an like everybody's tool, everybody's signal, then there has to be new thing that will give you an edge.
Okay. Will active investing in itself will die and like passive investing will take over? Like as we see in US, like almost, I think so, I'm not sure the number is correct or not, but I think roughly 75 to 80% of all the investments are done through passive investing, basically ETFs and all. So
So two things, right? Passive investing will continue to grow in India because so far it is not at that high level in India, right? And so looking at other developed markets, passive investing is likely to grow. But in no market around the world, passive investing can take over everything. There will always be pockets where there are opportunities for active investors to invest, right? Now, in markets that are very competitive, and particularly in spaces that are very competitive, for example, large cap, right? There, the opportunities for active investors are very limited in developed markets. Right? And so that is what will happen. The pockets will change, but the opportunities will remain. Because if nobody is doing active investing, then nobody is actually checking if there is undervaluation or overvaluation, right? And if that is the case, then that by itself will lead to such pockets being there, which active investors can exploit. In short, passive investing will grow, but it can never fully replace all active investing in any market in the world.
can AI be the one where like AI itself is research stock and all, and like it will be faster than the human? So how do you think AI will change the investing?
We'll find out. But I think like all facets of our lives, AI will play a big role in investing because essentially it is better at processing some type of information than humans, right? And so I think it will augment the ability of analysts and investors to find opportunities, right? But what that also means is that those opportunities that are easily accessible by AI will go away, because if everybody is using that, then those opportunities will get exploited, right? And so AI will kind of make take the opportunities at the next level, but in level playing field. And then those who want to look for special opportunities have to kind of go beyond or use AI in other ways that everybody's not
So
doing.
basically finding alpha will become more and more difficult, and
Yes.
and AI will also make the field level for an individual investor as well as a fund manager with a lot of resources.
Yeah, that is not clear, because a fund manager or institutional investors with more resources will always have an ability to find better ways of employing even AI. And so there would be difference, but it would be more level playing across, say, institutional investors and across individual investors.
That's all for today. Thank you, Prachi, for joining me. I certainly have a lot more questions, but for next time, thank you all for watching. If you like the video, please like it, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for our next episode.